All right, good evening. Just before we get started, if anyone has to use the restroom or anything like that, do not come off me. It's out these doors to the left. You can go ahead and take care of that. There is some information for you in the back right-hand corner. If you didn't get it, it just kind of outlines the order of what's going to take place today. I'd like to say hello to the council members that are present, staff members in attendance, you guys that took time out of your busy day to show up and listen to me, and also our viewing audience. My name is Captain Richard Bell, work for the department. I've been with West Covina for 19 years now. Total law enforcement experiences 23 years. And this evening I'm going to be giving a presentation regarding taking back our community. Because this is an official council meeting, may I get a roll call to know which council members are present, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson?
Yeah.
Here. Councilman Mike Spence?
Yeah.
Here. Councilmember James Toma? Absent. Councilmember Corey Warshaw? Absent. Councilman Tony Wu? Absent. At this point in time, we do not have a quorum. However, should a quorum be reached, meaning we have 3 council members present, it will be noted. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. So at this time, and before I get started, I just want everyone in the audience to know that I am not here to advocate for any specific initiative that's been brought forth in Sacramento. I'm not here to persuade you. I'm not here to get you and try and tell you to vote one way or another. I am here to present a coalition that got started by a few agencies. I want to present that information and talk to you a little bit about what's going on here in West Covina. So I want to make sure that you understand I'm not here to persuade you to vote one way for any initiative that we have here. So what is taking back our community? What is it all about? In early 2017, there was a few chiefs that got together, and basically they was wondering why there was an increase in crime in their area, and they were trying to pinpoint it to something, as any chief would. And basically at that time, there were 3 initiatives that were passed, and they contributed the increase in crime to those initiatives. As a result of that, they decided to come up with this Taking Back Our Community theme. The cities that were involved in that were the city of Monrovia, the city of Arcadia, and the city of Glendora. And the Taking Back Our Community program was developed to include the following components. They want to create a consistent public outreach and education material template that highlights state legislative changes which have contributed to the crime increase. They wanted to identify initial state legislative fixes that would support local public safety, efforts to fight crime in our cities. And they wanted to establish a mechanism for the public safety, or they wanted to establish a mechanism for the public to easily contact state legislative representatives to ask for support in improving California criminal justice system. And lastly, they wanted to create an ongoing coalition of cities that will consistently monitor and advocate for appropriate public safety state legislative changes. So in May, on May 23, 2011, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that California would have to reduce its overcrowding in state prisons to approximately 137.5% of its assigned capacity. I don't know if that's the accurate number, but that's the number that I have. In order to meet its goals, the state would have to reduce the prison population by 34,000 inmates. In response to the mandate, California began the process to reduce the state's prison population by introducing 3 legislation bills to address this issue. What came out of addressing this mandate to reduce the prison population was AB 109, which is also known as the Public Safety and Realignment Act, Proposition 47, which is known as the Safe Neighborhood and School Act, and Proposition 57, which is known as the Public Safety and Rehabilitation Act. Now, AB 109 was designed to transfer responsibility for housing and supervising some convicted felons. And as a result, it is estimated that 45,000 felons were transferred from prison to our local jail system. Prop 47 was introduced to reduce sentences and downgrade penalties. So there were certain penalties for certain crimes. This bill was introduced so that those penalties can be downgraded or reduced. And Prop 57 allowed for the early release of up to 30,000 convicted felons. So let's look at each bill a little closer. Gotta remember to change the slide. I'm sorry, I got off track here. Okay, so let's take a look at Assembly Bill. Let's look at the key features of Assembly Bill AB 109. So the key features of this bill shift the responsibility for housing and supervising felons. Those that were housed in the state prison were now going to be housed in the county jail facility. So if there was an overcrowding at the state prison level, then there certainly was going to be an overcrowding at the jail, at the county jail level. Now, I don't know all the nuances as to monies being shifted or what was supposed to be done with the money, but what I do know is that a lot of people got transferred, and so what started as an overcrowding in the state prison system now became overcrowding in our local jail facility. Another key feature was this: they were being supervised by parole agents, and now they're being supervised by county probation. I happen to have a lot of parole officers that are friends. I kind of wanted to know what the difference was between probation and parole agents, and this was the best way that it was summed up to me. Is when they were on parole, they were just supervised a little bit more stringently. In other words, they may have to report to the parole officer in his office to give an account of what they've been doing, where they were, and what's going on with their progress. And that's not so much the case with probation. It's not to say that it doesn't happen with probation, but you can call in probation and just give the report over the phone. It doesn't necessarily, probation sometimes doesn't necessarily get that in-depth one-on-one contact with those that have been released. So now that the individuals were being shifted from prison down to the county jail, they're now being supervised by probation. And guess what? Probation is being overwhelmed as well, because they had probationary status already, people that they were supervising, and now they're getting this huge influx of people. And this is important, especially to law enforcement. So we would contact people out in the field, and if somebody was violated and they were on parole, they could be incarcerated for minimum up to a year. That means if they were caught, they were violated, we were able to prove it, they obviously have to go through the court system, they get sent back for a year. Well, now, if they get caught, they get what they call a 10-day flash incarceration, up to 180 days. So what does that mean to you and I? It means that we could catch someone during a crime. It could be a low-level crime. We can actually put them in jail, and within a couple of days, they can be right back out on the street. And I'm sorry, Lord, do we need to establish that there's a quorum now? Okay, so there is a quorum. Councilman Tony Rubin on the shoulder. Thank you. What are the impacts? So the county jail facilities began to become filled with felons serving long sentence terms. So before, you used to hear, well, you can serve up to a year in county jail. Well, now these persons that was being transferred down from state prison, they were actually being incarcerated for longer periods of times. So those individuals that were getting caught for the lower crimes, petty theft, those things, well, they had to go somewhere and they were kicked out of the jail. Also, it allowed for felons with violent criminal histories to be released with minimal supervision. And this was a concern in law enforcement because sometimes you have to keep your finger on these guys to make sure that they are being rehabilitated and stay that way. And so they would only they were only being supervised based off their most recent or current committed crime. So if they were a habitual robbery person, and then they committed a low-level burglary or petty theft, they were only getting sentenced off of the low-level one. We kind of forget about, the history behind it. So that becomes a little problematic for us. Then came Proposition 47. This was named the Safe Neighborhood and School Act of 2014. And it has impacted public safety in the following ways. It reclassified and downgraded a number of crimes from felonies to misdemeanors. And later on, I'm going to go over what some of those crimes were. They reduced certain property and drug possessions felonies to straight misdemeanors. So things that we were able to arrest for as a felony, we now can only arrest for as a misdemeanor. That becomes problematic for us. And it allowed certain offenders currently serving a sentence for those offenses to petition the court to have a felony sentence reduced to a misdemeanor. So if it was one of those crimes that was reduced, if they were already serving it, they could call, make a petition, and get it reduced so that they can get early release. This all helped the court meet court-ordered custody population limits, and it also released at least 13,500 inmates from the state prison and county jail and back into our communities. And it also erased an estimated 198,000 felony convictions. So what is the key features of Proposition 47? This bill reduced certain drug possessions that were felonies to misdemeanors, and some of those drug possessions include the possession of cocaine, the possession of heroin, possession of morphine. These were crimes that if we caught any individual on the street with, we could stop them, and if we had the legal right to stop them, we found that drug, we could arrest them, take them to jail for a felony. Those drugs are now misdemeanor convictions. It also made all thefts under $950 a misdemeanor offense. Thefts such as grand theft, receiving stolen property, forgery, writing bad checks. As many of you know today, there's an increase in individuals stealing mail from the mailboxes. And what they're doing is they're trying to get a hold of your credit cards and any information that they can gather to try to defraud you from your money. Ultimately, the big companies end up paying for it, but we feel it because prices and other things get raised on us. But the threshold on this used to be $400. So if you went into the store, you stole $401 felony, we take you to jail for a felony. Now, it has to be $950 or more in order for it to be a felony. One of the other things that came out of this is that if you were in the past, if you were a habitual thief, let's say you went in the store with a booster bag and your mission was to steal as many clothes as you could. Well, if you get caught in the past, if you got caught several times doing that, even though the crime may have been under $400 at the time, if you committed that crime a few times, we can actually charge you for a felony. Well, they took that away as well. So as soon as the criminals find this out, they keep doing these things over and over and over. And now there's no penalty for it. It's just a misdemeanor. So what's the impact? The impact is that the bill has reduced the ability for police to arrest repeat theft offenders. And so sometimes we arrest, like I said, someone at 11 o'clock in the morning, and by 3 o'clock, they're out on the street again. There is limited to no room in the county jail facilities for misdemeanor sentences due to housing felons from the AB 109. So when they sent the convicts from prison to county jail, now these low-level persons that would normally remain in jail, they're getting kicked out. And these are the guys that are committing a lot of the crimes that we see in and around our communities. Well, what does this do? So victims are failing to report this, and they're not willing to make a report for the arrest especially when they find out the consequences of what happens to the offender. So basically they're saying, look, nothing's going to happen to them, so why should I report it? And that is not the message that we want to send to our community. And lastly, in most of these offenses, we can no longer collect DNA from. DNA is very powerful, as you know. A lot of crimes have been solved as a result of this. So in the past, we were able to collect the DNA, and now for some of these crimes, we can no longer do that. Then came Proposition 57, the Public Safety and Rehabilitation Act of 2016. And how has this affected public safety? Well, in the following ways. It's given the state the authority to release up to 30,000 criminals from prison for non-violent felonies. Pay attention to that non-violent felonies, because I'm going to tell you what's been classified as non-violent felonies. And you're probably going to be shocked when I provide that information to you. It also provided the adult state prison inmates with early release opportunities. And also it allowed that if a juvenile got arrested for a heinous crime, the judge had the authority to, based off his age in the crime, convict him as an adult. Well, that's been taken away now. There has to be a hearing, and the judge has to make that determination. So what are the key features? The key features of this bill: nonviolent offenders in state prison are eligible for early parole. And this is where I feel like we're chasing the tail. We're chasing our tail, because some of these people we see quite often. What are some of the crimes that are considered nonviolent? And I'm going to put this list over, and I'm going to read them because I want you to fully understand that what I see up here are violent crimes, but they've been reduced to nonviolent. Human trafficking involving a minor. Violent, non-violent. Hate crimes. I don't know if you remember, just recently we were involved in a hate crime incident where an individual was going around the county setting churches on fire. And we were the victim of 2 such occasions. The guy ended up getting caught over in Los Angeles, and now he's being convicted for it. But hate crimes. Arson of forest land. Assault with a deadly weapon. Not violent. Assault with a deadly weapon. That's what it's classified as. Active participation in a street gang. Exploding a destructive device with the intent to cause injury. Classified non-violent. First-degree burglary. I don't know about you guys, if you've ever been burglarized, car, house, or whatever, it's just such an awful feeling. But there's more. Assault, I think I said assault with a deadly weapon, and force likely, I'm sorry, I already said deadly weapon and force likely, I think it's commit bodily harm. Domestic violence. They classify that as a non-violent crime. Battery with serious bodily injury, solicitation to commit murder, inflicting corporal injury upon a child, rape, sodomy, or copulation of an unconscious person, or by use of a date rape drug. So these are the individuals that are being let out. The cumulative impact of this. I think we all can see that crime is increasing, at least from a law enforcement standpoint it is. And I know there might be some advocates out there that don't see it that way. I'm okay with it. I work in the field. I think that crime's increasing. So non-violent, well, I think I already said that. Let's get this going. So I'm going to take a look at just 3 areas. I'm not going to stay long on it. But in California, they've seen a 10% increase in violent crimes and an 8% increase in property crimes. Now, I know you're probably thinking, well, we live in West Covina, not all of California, so what's going on here? I'm going to get to that. As for the city of West Covina, over the same period of time. Now, we're talking 2014 and 2015, and I compared our numbers because on the coalition's website, those are the numbers they use, so I didn't want to go away from that. So in 2015, we saw an overall increase of about 6% in violent and property crimes. In Los Angeles, they saw, I'm getting a little closer, they saw a 10% increase in property crimes and a 40% increase in violent crimes. And they used the marker of 2013 to 2016, getting a little closer here. Let's take a look at some of the surrounding cities that are behind me. All of the surrounding cities, crime rates, interest me because I know that criminals don't have boundaries. In other words, if you commit a crime in Westminster, you don't stay in Westminster to commit that crime. You go wherever your crime buddies or your intuition takes you, which could lead to West Covina. Oftentimes we arrest people that don't live in our city. From year to year, my guess is that we will see an increase and some decrease with respect to crime. So in other words, some years are going to be higher than others. What does Parkland crimes with respect to violent and property crimes look like today in West Covina? Let me explain what violent crimes are. Now, this is from the FBI website. This information you can get from the FBI website. We post these numbers to them every year. They are a little behind for 2017, but the numbers are there. Violent crimes consist of things like murder, rape, robbery, and aggravated assault. Property crimes consist of things like burglary, larceny, theft, motor vehicle theft, and arson. So according to the FBI Part 1 crime, this is their Part 1 crime rate summary, the city of West Covina is actually down in every measurable category except 3. One is rape. Now, I don't want everybody to get alarmed and say, oh my God, we got a rape epidemic. We don't. They changed some laws with respect to rape, which increased the numbers. So some things that weren't considered rape are now considered rape, and they changed that, so the numbers seem a little elevated. But these next ones, they're pretty accurate. Robberies up 31%. This is from 2016 to now, to 2017. And larceny, that's all of your burglaries, up 2%. And I will tell you that any of these crimes up any percent is too much for me. So what do we do? Before we can determine what we need to do, we need to solve the problem. We need to first understand why the problem is occurring. And this is where you find most of the debate. Back in 2010, we did have some public safety concerns. All of this is contributed back to the bills that I first started out with, which are AB 109, Proposition 47, and Proposition 57. And I will tell you that not all of the bill is bad. It just needs to be adjusted. I do not recall when the bills were initiated that a group of law enforcement officials with a group of legislation guys all got together and came up with it. Therein lies the problem. And so now the bills were introduced, and we're trying to fix them. We're trying to figure out what works good for public safety and what works good for legislation, because the bills can work if it meets everyone's expectation. What that is, I don't know, so that's what we're working on right now. Impact from the legislation changes. Diminished tools available to deter crime. So they're taking tools out of our hands to deter crimes. When we can't arrest people and keep them in jail for long periods of time, they're apt to get out and repeat that if there's no rehabilitation. There has to be rehabilitation for them to stop their actions. Theft under $950 is now essentially a consequence-free crime. And these guys are taking advantage of it. Let me just tell you, the criminals, I tell this to some of my guys, if they took what they did to commit the crime and put it to use, we'd have some pretty brilliant people out there. Less incentive for drug rehabilitation. So when we're offering these guys the option, hey, we're gonna let you out early for the realization. There's no incentive in that. They get out anyway. Criminals convicted of non-violent crimes eligible for early release by the state. And all of that equals to more victims of crimes in our communities. So what do we do now? Cities need to work together to take back our community. And that's why this was formed. So first we need to understand that we do live in California. Laws in California look different from other laws. Law enforcement officials agree that AB 109, Prop 47 and Prop 57 have contributed to the increase in crime in California. And you will see a variance between different cities. But there are also many organizations and groups who have aggressively argued their position that crime rate in California today are still at historic lows. And that might be true, but I will tell you that any crime is too much. And that crime is cyclical in nature. And there is no proof that AB 109, Prop 47, and Prop 57 have contributed to crime in California. And that's what some groups are advocating. And I will tell you that they have their opinion, and I'm okay with that. The coalition's objectives: to raise public awareness regarding the reason why crime is increasing in our state. And I think that that is something that we need to do. Nobody likes to be a victim of any crime. We need to advocate the state legislation change. We need to advocate for state legislative changes to improve law enforcement's ability to respond to crime. Can't take all our tools away. You just can't do it. We need to be able to operate and operate effectively and function while we're doing our job. So we need these tools. And to provide a consistent message surrounding the facts and impacts of AB 109, Prop 47, and Prop 57. Common sense change is needed. The coalition does not believe that we should do away with AB 109, Prop 47, and Prop 57. And I told you that. However, they do believe that common sense changes are needed to ensure that individuals are in a fair and humane way held accountable for their actions. And so, as you can see by this list behind me, there are a number of cities that have joined this coalition. And as West Covina is part of the coalition, and one of the things that came out was that you can take back your community any way you want. They're not saying it has to be this way, they're not saying it has to be that way, because every city experiences different crimes. Some city may experience a lot of robberies, some may experience a lot of burglaries, some may experience a lot of auto thefts. It just depends on the city. So to bring this, So to kind of bring this together, there's a short little video that I want you to see. This was put on by the coalition, so I didn't make this up, but I definitely want you to view it before I continue.
Our house was broken into. It's the third break-in this month on our street. Why doesn't someone do something about the crime?
Our store was robbed again today. I don't know if we're going to be able to keep our doors open if something doesn't change.
Yes, I'm calling to report a suspicious person loitering on our street. He's been here for hours, and I don't feel safe.
Lately, have you been feeling less safe? Violent and property crime rates have been increasing throughout California over the last few years. And law enforcement officials agree that these increases are happening in part because of recent changes to California's criminal justice system. Instituted through AB 109, Proposition 47, and Proposition 57. It started in 2011 when the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that California had to reduce prison overcrowding. This led the state to approve Assembly Bill 109, which improved unsafe conditions and overcrowding in prisons, but did so by transferring tens of thousands of felons convicted of nonviolent crimes back to local jails. And because of the lack of resources needed to house and supervise this increased prisoner population, the sudden influx of new criminals forced local officials to release tens of thousands of lower-level criminals back into our communities. This has certainly had an impact on crime rates in California. Against this backdrop, in 2014, the state then championed the approval of Proposition 47, or the Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act, which reclassified and downgraded a number of crimes from felonies to misdemeanors. Today, because of Proposition 47, theft under $950 is considered a consequence-free crime, which has made our neighborhoods and schools less safe. Most recently, in 2016, the state championed Proposition 57, which was called the Public Safety and Rehabilitation Act. Approval of this measure means that felons convicted of nonviolent crimes can be released early from state prison. But remember, under AB 109, there are no more nonviolent felons in state prison. So who did Proposition 57 make eligible for early release? Because of Proposition 57, felons convicted of these crimes can now be released early. Do these crimes seem nonviolent to you? Taken together, AB 109, Proposition 47, and Proposition 57 did institute important, needed reforms to the state's criminal justice system. However, the new laws have also had negative public safety impacts that should be addressed. Because recent increases in crime won't be solved by hiring more police officers, the problems we're facing can only be solved if the state chooses to make some common sense improvements to our laws so that we can keep the best parts of AB 109, Proposition 47, and Proposition 57, while also being able to effectively deter crime and appropriately punish violent criminals. To learn more, visit www.takingbackourcommunityca.com.
Okay, so before we open up things for comments, I want to speak a little bit about what's going on here in West Covina. So, as I was sitting there putting this together, I'm thinking, what are things I think people are concerned about? One, I think you all would agree with me, is this homeless problem that we have here. We have seen a spike in our homeless population over the recent years. And I want to fill you in on what we are doing as a department to combat that. So last year we put together a team of 2 officers. It's called the HOPE team, Homeless Outreach Park and Enforcement Team. And what they do is they partner with our HALO team and our MET team. And the HALO team and the MET team, they deal with the mental illness portion of it. Because we know that some of our homeless people have mental illness problems and you can't just lock them away for that, right? Some of them need serious help and some of them just don't know where to go. So all of these teams came together, and now what they do is they work together to try to get these guys the help that they need. So when a homeless person is contacted, they're given this resource guide here, and it says the West Covina Homeless Resource and Service Information Card. And on it, it has numbers that you can call, that you can get resources or help for different things. The 211 LA County, if you're a veteran, it has all the information for veterans on what number you can contact and get help. There's a bunch of Los Angeles homeless services on here. On the back, it also has locations and in what city that you can go and receive these services. So every one of our homeless persons that you see in the city have probably had 5 of these because they've been contacted several times by our guys. I noticed that sometimes people, you can't help but notice some of the encampments that rise up around the city. And sometimes we'll get a call and someone will say, well, I know you guys see it. It's right there on the corner of walk and don't walk, do something about it. Well, it's not that easy anymore. I will tell you that there are lawyers that are going up and down the street right now that are actually asking these homeless individuals, are you being harassed by the police? Tell me what they did, because they're looking to generate business by that. So we've had to come up with a way to deal with these people. And I hate to say these people, but I mean the homeless. Forgive me if anybody's offended by that. So basically what we've come up with is we have a notice of property removal. And so it's almost like an eviction process. We have to contact them. We have to tell them you can no longer be here. And that you have a certain amount of time to leave, and we have to allow them that time in order to leave. So we can't just take their stuff. So we go away, you drive back by and go, see, they've done absolutely nothing. That's not true. We are doing something, but we have to give them the notice. When we come back, if they have not complied with the notice, we're able to take their things, but we're responsible for it. So we have to house it. So we have places at our police department, bins and things like that, that we actually have to take their property and house it there. And I've literally watched this happen, where we got a call to take down an encampment on the parkway. We made the notice, the next day we took it down. Within 3 hours after the notice, the person went back, retrieved their stuff, because it's not evidence, it's just safekeeping. Took it back over to the parkway and put it back up. And I wanted to pull my hair out, because you can see I don't have much hair. So I'm like, well, what do we do? So this is the vicious cycle that we have to go to. So that's why it's important that we educate each homeless person on some of the resources that they can take advantage of, because some of them don't have to be out on the street. But I just want you to know some of them want to be out on the street. And then for the local businesses, we have an authorization to basically, let's say if you own a business and you don't want them outside the back of your business, you can fill this out, which gives us the authority to come and remove them from your property. And not every business has this, and I want to encourage, if you're a business owner, get this on file so we don't have to contact you and ask your permission. And if it's late in the night, obviously we got to wait till in the morning time. So if you own a business, this is a good resource to have. But what has our Hope team been doing? Now these numbers are only going to take you to, I think, the beginning of April. We have one guy that's down right now, so I'm a little short, about a month on numbers, but this will give you some idea of what the team has been doing. So FI cards is information cards. So we need to be able to identify, this isn't it, I'm just using it as an example. They're FI cards, it's an informational card because we want to know who's out there. We want to get to know these people so we know who's who in the zoo, right? And so we contact these people all the time, we get the FI card. Since the inception of this program in January, we have completed, and there's going to be a plus on all these numbers, 219 FI cards. We have removed 65 encampments. Some of them are repeat offenders. We have given the service card contact to 408 individuals. We've taken 21 reports, impounded 1 vehicle. We've made 18 arrests. We've made 326 business checks, park checks, and extra patrols. And we've issued a number of cites. So that is kind of like what we're doing with the homeless. It is forever changing because the laws are changing. But I just want you to know, if you call in, please have some patience. Just know that sometimes we have to notice them before we can move their property. And I know it's an eyesore, but that's just the business we are in today. But please call. If you don't call, we don't see it all the time. Sometimes they tuck back in some of these little neat places and we don't always see them. But please do not forget to call. Another issue that I identified is our traffic issue, which I can tell you has gotten a lot better over the last few months. I don't want to jinx anything or do anything like that. I know the chief is, matter of fact, he's going to kill me right now. But, I was supposed to introduce him at the beginning, so let me just pause right now. This is Mark Taylor. He's been our chief for several months now, and he's doing a fantastic job. So we have identified that traffic was a concern here. Obviously, it needed some attention. And one of the things that we've done this past year is we placed a sergeant back in charge of the traffic unit so that there can be some oversight to some of the activity that's going on and get these guys out in the field. We also, through the issuance of a grant, we have a DUI car out there. That car is visible during those key hours. Sometimes visibility is all you need, but he's out there making DUI arrests, just throwing it out there. And that's on a grant, so it's on a year-to-year basis. We hope to keep it longer than a year, but that's another person that we have in our traffic unit that's out there. And lastly, we've added a community service officer to the cadre to help with day-to-day operations and also field activity. And the last area of concern is our burglaries. I've seen it a few times where we've had what seems like a plethora of burglaries in the same area. And we've gotten some calls from some of the citizens that say, hey, you know, what's going on? So through our investigation and over time, we have caught a lot of these individuals, but what you need to understand is that there's a lot of individuals outside the city that their sole job is to come and burglarize cities. So in other words, they will put together teams of 3, 4, 5 individuals, and they will target specific cities. West Covina, Arcadia, Beverly Hills, it doesn't matter. Any city that they think that they can get to and deprive you of your property, that's what they target. Is it a chance? Absolutely, but they do it. It wasn't but, I want to say a few weeks ago, right before school let out, we had 4 juveniles show up from a different city out towards the Los Angeles area. We ended up arresting all 4 of them, and they were here just to do that, commit a burglary. So they have a lookout, they have a driver, they have someone that goes in, you know, they do these sort of things. So sometimes if we can identify the pattern, that's great for us. We do have a crime analyst that is able sometimes to pinpoint certain things that give us that little advantage. Sometimes, you know, a neighbor might see a car driving away and give us a partial plate, we're able to plug that in. But we are very aggressive when it comes to burglaries because we realize that it's important to our community, and so we go after these guys. And we've been pretty successful, but there's a lot of them out there. And so what I want to say to you is, a lot of these schools are getting out right now. And I'm not saying it's the juveniles that's doing it, but I'm saying there's more people out and about because school's not in. Be vigilant at your house. Make sure you lock things. Lock your cars, lock your house. If you have an alarm, set it. You know, if you're home, someone knocks on your door, let them know you're there. Okay? Those sort of things to help deter some of the crimes that are going on. I cannot tell you when these guys get together when they're going to do it. So there's no crystal ball. You know, I don't know what area they're going to pick. Sometimes it's not West Covina. But we have identified that that does occur. So that along with the auto thefts, they're just sporadic. They're just guys. Sometimes they're from the community and oftentimes they're not. But sometimes it's just a chance that we run across them through either a traffic stop or something like that to help deter. But we are doing our very best with the resources that we have. And those are the areas that I have identified before I open it up for any questions. Chief, is there anything that you want to add or say? Get thrown out.
Good evening. First of all, I want to thank Captain Bell for the presentation. So if we can just... And then the other thing, I really want to thank everybody that's here tonight because you're here because you care. And, you know, not only do I get to serve as the police chief, I'm also a resident of the city. And so all of the same problems that you have, I have them at my house too. The transients, burglaries, all those things and everything. So I take a lot of these things personally. Captain Bell says, you know, even though our larcenies only went up 2%, one of the biggest problems is the non-reporting of crimes. And because of all the different law changes and everything, I feel really bad for our retailers in the city. They're getting stolen blind. And a lot of them at the mall, at the smaller locations, they don't want to call the police, they don't want to get involved, they don't want to try to prosecute some of these people. They'd rather get their stuff back if they can. They don't want to go to the whole court process, have their employees have to spend time, go through that whole thing for misdemeanor. So, you know, I think our crime is actually a little bit higher than that 2%. The only thing we can rely on is what's reported to us. I think that's an area that's a little bit underreported. Is anybody in retail in here? Nobody in retail? Oh my gosh. Okay, so I have a sister-in-law, she works at Alta down in Twenty Hills. And she says pretty much every month there's a crew of 4 people. They come in with bags and basically they go shopping. And they take stuff that's under the $950 threshold and they walk out. And they just get in their car and leave. So that's a misdemeanor. Whereas before, that used to be a commercial burglary, which was a felony. So they decriminalized that all the way down to a petty theft. And we're just seeing that more and more. And so everybody here, everybody that shops, I know people shop, right? Okay, everybody shops. So everybody that shops, we're paying for this. Somehow the retailers are going to get their money back, and it's by increasing the cost to everybody that actually pays. So it's not completely like a victimless crime. We're all affected by it, whether it's impacting us personally or not. Somehow we're being affected. So again, I just want to thank you. I know Captain Bell is going to answer some questions. We invite questions. I'm very proud that we have a police department that really cares. We're not completely indicative of the crime that we're seeing in California. I think a lot of that is because we have very proactive policing. We're stopping a lot of people before they commit crimes. And also, we have a community that cares. We have a community that partners with us, that takes the time when they see something that isn't right to actually call us. And it's got to be that partnership between the police department and the community to make everything work. So I thank you all for that.
Okay, so does anyone have any questions? Ron, can you help me out here so I can answer?
Yeah, about a month ago, there was a lady that came up to our door, one of the homeless ladies from the community. And my son-in-law was there. He got to the door before I did, and he basically chased her way down the street. But she walked down the street, then she came back, and then this is over on Reset Avenue. And then she went and set out her blanket for the night and leaned up against the block wall there. And that was going to be her place for the evening. You guys are so busy with other things, it's like she wasn't blocking the whole sidewalk, so there's no use in calling you guys to say, hey, there's a homeless person here, because you really can't do anything about it. At least that's what I'm seeing as a citizen. I guess I need to know when to call you guys and when in law enforcement and when not to, so that we don't waste the city's resources, or if there's things that we can do as citizens. I'm not sure what, but one of the things that I thought about when you were talking is that card that you have, the resource card. If that was in the Discover West Covina magazine, all of us could cut it out and make our own copies. If that girl had come up to my door and I had that, I would have given her a bottle of water and a McDonald's card and said, good luck, there's some place out there that can help you. So that might be something for the city to consider.
So I'm going to steal the answer from Rich on this one, so, because I can. Right? So, actually, what I tell people at every community meeting is call us. Please call us. And a lot of times, we're going to get out there, we're going to find everything's okay, but it's better to have us check than, to just go, well, the police are busy, and, we appreciate that. People don't want to burden us with these calls, but that's why you pay your taxes. That's what we're here for. And our people want to go out there. Now, she may be a homeless person that's leaning against the wall. It's not illegal to be homeless, but she may have a $100,000 warrant for burglary. She may have different things that we might be able to take action and to prevent something. If not, maybe we're just going to take her name, we're going to offer her the resource card. But if there's, let's say burglaries in the area, there's vehicle burgs or something, now we have that person's information and we might be able to tie that person back to a crime in the future. So I don't care how small it is, give us a call. Maybe it's not a 911 call, but you can call our non-emergent line. We're going to put it in line. We prioritize all of our calls, and we're going to get somebody out there. We respond to every call. It may take us a little while because of, we're down a bunch of calls, but we will be there. And I'd rather have us go check it out than have one of you go out, encounter somebody, and then maybe a fight ensues or something. And I don't want to see you put yourself in that position. That's what we're here for.
That's what I was going to say.
Thank you, sir. Regarding the phone calls and calling and so forth, I don't know if everyone here knows the best number to call. That's the first question I have. What is the best number to call? And then second, have you done any experiments lately to, because I know we've had some changes with the phone system that's going down and so forth. Have we checked to see what happens when you dial those numbers such as 939-8500 on your cell phone? And then also if you have a 911 situation and you want to get West Covina PD, have you checked to see what happens today when you're in various parts of the city? That's my question. Thank you.
Well, let's start with the phone calls. If you dial 911 on your cell phone, you may get CHP first. That's just the way it's set up. And then they'll have to transfer you. So that might be part of the issue. If you dial it from your home phone, it should go right to our department and we'll be able to respond to you from there. We have had some challenges with our phone system. We are currently looking at replacing it. But sometimes with the electricity or the heat, things happen and it goes down. We've experienced a little bit of that recently, but we get it back up and running ASAP because we realize how important it is to be able to contact your local law enforcement. So we are working on the phone system. I have not personally checked every number, but I'll make sure that gets done. You can still call the 626-939-8500 number. That should get you exactly where you need to go. And if you can't, please do what I know Mr. Sykes would do, and that's call us right now and let us know. Yes.
Lifelong resident, extremely passionate about public safety. I just want to point out something that's really obvious is the difference between an assembly bill and a proposition. So when you have AB and SB, assembly bill, senate bill, propositions are something that we vote on. So that's something that we as individuals voted as a community to pass. And unfortunately, they're marketed in different ways and misinterpreted. So I just want to add that comment. One thing that there's been buzz about is that near the facility by McDonald's and the Goodwill store and the Dollar Tree is that there are buses that will come and drop off individuals and they stay here. West Covina is a nice place. We're a tree city. Shout out to West Covina Beautiful for helping keep it a tree city. So is that a true statement? Is that something that you guys are seeing happening? And what do we do about the individuals like that I drive by in the morning that are shooting up? And kids are walking by and I mean, I would hate to be a runner and get pricked and next thing I know I have hepatitis and I mean, what can we do about that?
Okay, well, first I do apologize for the Assembly bill versus proposition.
No, I just wanted to make that obvious because you know I come from that background.
In terms of the buses, we do know that because there's a medical facility right there by the Carl's Jr. where some of these guys can receive medical attention, they are, I don't know if it's actually bussed in, but there's a bus that will bring those individuals for that care. The problem is they don't stay and take them back. So now these individuals are stuck here to get back the best way they can, and if they like it, yeah, they do end up staying. We are working on why that is. I don't have an answer for you tonight, but we are working on that. In terms of if you see anybody using drugs or anything, I don't care if it's a misdemeanor, I don't care if it's an infraction, call us. Because you're right, if you're out jogging, if you encounter a needle or something like that, or how about the kids walking to school or something like that, if they encounter a needle, they pick it up, it could be some great consequences as a result of that. So my thing is, if you see it, stop right there, call us. Right?
Thanks. So I just had another question as well. Out of the 200 that were contacted, I know the county is supposed to also partner with the police department and have a mental health professional to help the resources, because you guys aren't mental health professionals. It's not what you guys are there to do and help the the affects of that. How many of those people actually got help out of the 200 and some that were given that piece of paper?
I don't have that number, but I will tell you that the MET team and HALO team, so on our HALO team, both of these teams deal with mental illness, but they only go out one time a week. So we partner with other cities. We have an officer that goes out one time a week, and usually what happens is, as we generate these cards, we try to get to those individuals when it's West Covina's turn, because they go to different cities. So I would have to look into to see exactly if that's actually being tracked. I know some have taken advantage of it, but there's plenty out there, and I don't have an answer to it.
Thank you, I appreciate it. And the other resource that you didn't mention that people can do is the Community Police Workshop, right? Is that what it's called?
The Citizens Academy.
What is it? Oh, the Citizens Academy.
Good evening, Colleen Rosati. I have a question. Would it help at all, in your opinion, since this is an election year, if letters were written to our assembly members and our senators to retract some of this that has just occurred? The AB 109, the Prop 57, etc., in your opinion?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm in uniform. And I'm in uniform now, so I'm not advocating one way or the other. That's totally up to you as an individual. I provided you with some facts and information, so I would leave that up to you.
Well, speaking about the propositions, you mentioned earlier that the coalition does not want to change them, and I didn't quite understand that because we only have so many police officers. I don't know how many you have. And with the increase in what's going on here, I don't see why, well, I probably voted for him because the word safety was in it. So there we go, Public Safety and Rehabilitation, Public School Safety Act. Well, who isn't going to vote for that because they think it's going to make your neighborhood safer? But we have to do something about it. So, like Pauline said, can we start a grassroots? Can we start something where we need to have these changed? Because you guys can only do so much. We can only watch and try to figure out what we can do. But we're at a stalemate. And it shouldn't stay this way. If the Supreme Court, did they do this to all the states or did they just pick California?
Well, those are for California.
Oh, yeah.
So let me answer your question as far as why we want to keep them. I think, what I said and what you probably heard in the video is that there may be some good parts of those initiatives that we want to keep, and there may be other parts that we don't. The problem is that sometimes when a bill is passed, the pendulum swings way right or way left, right? And we're trying to find that middle ground. So sometimes it's beneficial for law enforcement, sometimes it's not. So what we're talking about is bringing it so that both sides can be happy. So I hope that answers your question.
Well, Chief, do you think that it would be helpful if you could have more police officers? Because public safety is number one in the city.
Well, obviously, I've never turned down police officers, so the bottom line, we have a city council that's extremely supportive of public safety, and we all have to work within our financial means. So we're facing some tough times, budgetary problems, and the city council are the ones that actually authorize those 2 extra positions for our HOPE team, which is the homeless outreach and park enforcement. So they're the ones that really day-to-day deal with the transients, the homeless, and everything. So as funding becomes available, those resources are given to us. And I think everybody just, has to really step back and feel like, our job is to provide the facts of how it's affecting us. Everybody has to, go home, take that information, whether you end up contacting your legislators, whether you, follow up with the website that Captain Bell put out. Those are the things that, we want to share that information, and then you make the decision. Like Rich said, we can't advocate in uniform one way or the other. Our job is to present the facts, but, we're very fortunate that, again, we have a lot of resources in the city. We'll probably never have as many as we could use, but, we do a very good job with what we have. Yeah, the HOPE team is a special funding, the HALO and the MET. They are part-time, they're not full-time. And so like Captain Bell said, we partner with other cities. We actually have a mental health clinician that rides with the officers. So they target people that are really in need. And, you know, as we all know, there's different reasons for homelessness. It's not an easy solution. It's across the board. So the ones that have the mental illness, those are the ones that the HALO and the MET try to target. They try to get them either into a clinic to be evaluated. Does anybody know what the biggest mental health clinic is in California?
County Jail.
St. Louis County Jail, exactly. And you know, I've talked to Sheriff McDonald, and on a daily basis, they have about 5,000 inmates that are typically classified as mentally ill. So one of his problems is when somebody's mentally ill, when they classify them, they look at are they a danger to other inmates? And a majority of the time they are. So when they do that, they can't put them with another inmate in a cell. So you're taking a 2-person cell and you're only putting 1 person in, which reduces the capacity for everybody. And they don't have the capacity, so then now they're citing out lower level offenders and everything because, you know, it's just that huge problem. Plus, once somebody gets booked into county jail and they have a mental illness or any type of physical problem, it's incumbent upon the county to provide services to them. They can't neglect them. So it's a huge drain on resources, financial and everything to get that taken care of.
We watch too much TV, okay? I said we watch too much TV, so sometimes our perceptions are swayed by the media. I've never understood the logic in stopping the DNA testing, other than saving money. What is the impact, and do you know why that got stopped?
I think, you know, a lot of people feel that it's an infringement on their rights, and you know, there's groups that advocate for that. For us, you know, I think everybody just saw on the news it was a big deal. The Golden State Killer, right? And you know, that was huge. And the way they found him is through DNA. To me, that's one of the biggest tools. You know, when I first started, it was fingerprinting. There was no DNA. Then all of a sudden that came on board, and you know, it's even more accurate than the fingerprinting. So you know, it's a tool that really helps us. You know, I don't personally see what the issue is. You know, it's just a cotton swab. We take it. Doesn't seem like it's overly intrusive, but there are groups that feel that way. And, you know, I respect their opinion as well.
Is there a chance of it coming back where you can use it?
Well, some of these propositions, you know, would have to be overturned and reversed to get some of that back in. It would have to be legislated.
I just had a concern. I'm on Glendora and Merced, and every weekend I hear a lot of car backfire or fireworks or gunshots, and my dogs are terrified. I called it in to complain. I don't know if they're legal fireworks, but it's every weekend where I live. It's like Dodge City. I don't know what to do.
And we do want you to call, and as we get closer to that magical day of July 4th, our calls for service on fireworks just start really increasing. It is illegal. Most of them are misdemeanors. We actually, for police officers to arrest for a misdemeanor, it has to be committed in our presence. So we actually have to see somebody light it off. So you can call, and we can go to the door if you know who it is, but we didn't see that person light it off, so we can't make an arrest on it. So it's a little bit frustrating on that side, but we still want to be called. I would say the majority of them are not shots fired. I mean, you know, we really don't get that many shots fired. When we do, there's usually casings or something indicative that there was a shooting, but overall that area is pretty safe, and you know, I would say most likely it probably is fireworks. And my dogs go through the same thing. It drives them nuts, you know, they start barking, you know. But do continue to call if it's ongoing, and then we can try to determine where that's coming from. We'll definitely have a car go out.
I kind of have 2 questions. We live on Van Horn, right off Merced. Unfortunately, recently our car was broken into with a slew of a bunch of other cars. My wife is pretty vigilant. She stays on that app, the website Nextdoor, and everybody kind of compiles everything. What I'm doing is with my cameras is I'm actually filming people that are walking randomly in my neighborhood, because a lot of people I don't even know who they are. Is there somewhere we can contribute those videos to you, just in case there is a crime? Or
actually, we would not be able to store those. I mean, you're welcome to take that video. That's your right from your property to be able to film. But it would have to be tied to something suspicious. So, you know, with the burglary, if, you know, it was close in time, proximity to the burglary, and you had video of that, we would definitely take a car out. Have a car go out. But, you know, we may, even if we don't tie it to it, we may be able to take like a suspicious circumstances report, just so it's on file. And if something comes up in the future, whether we get fingerprints off your car. And that's another one where we want people to call, because a lot of times people get their cars broken into. Right now, the big thing is people ride bikes or they walk through the neighborhood, and all they're doing is flipping door handles, right? They're looking for the people that don't lock their cars. Now, my wife's probably watching tonight, but I'm just going to say that she might be one of those people that tend not to lock the car sometimes. And I'm always telling her, oh my gosh, we've been lucky. But, you know, so the biggest thing is don't leave anything in your car of value. Make sure that it's locked. And if you do have your car broken into, we'll have a car come out. We can take fingerprints. We have an outstanding forensics unit at our fire department. In fact, we have a forensics investigator that's one of 4 in the United States in his certifications and classifications. So we make a lot of cases based on fingerprints. And it's always good to have that video as a backup, because when we identify the person through the fingerprints, we can put the face to the person, and that's helpful to us.
okay, my second question is, I understand, you know, being homeless is not a crime, but just because you're homeless doesn't mean you can't commit criminal acts. I mean, it's just, you know, you need money. My thing is over here at Orangewood Park, right next to the skate park by the hockey rink, there tends to be homeless that actually just sit under all the shade, the gazebos. Now my thing is I bring my grandson to the park, and I don't want him playing basketball there because it smells like urine, it smells like marijuana. Does the city actually, like, I work for the County of Los Angeles, and I work for Parks and Rec, and I know we have a team that goes in there every morning. They pressure wash the whole area, so actually people in the community can actually go and have a birthday party. But I see that they make camp there, and nobody wants to use the park. It's not even a park for families anymore.
Yeah, and really that's kind of a problem with a lot of our parks. It's not just specific to Orangewood, but I know our city yard does have crews that go in, they empty the trash, they clean things up, they do pressure wash. Again, if it's during the day and the park's open, if they're not committing crimes, we have no legal right to approach that person and find out. Obviously, if they're committing crimes, if they're drinking alcohol, we have an ordinance against that. If they're in the park past 10 o'clock at night, we have an ordinance against that. So we can enforce certain things. And you said, you know, homelessness is not a crime. So we have to have a legal right. It's just, you know, we can't go up to anybody and tell them, hey, you have to move, you know. We have to stay within the rights of everybody.
Chief, pardon me.
Right here.
Oh,
You said you couldn't tell someone to move. I thought if you stay in a place for a long length of time, you would be a vagrant. And then you ask someone to move on. You've been here half a day, just standing there or panhandling.
Yeah. So actually, no.
No.
So I'll go all the way back to the 60s and 70s. There used to be vagrancy laws and loitering laws. And most of that's been repealed. So they have to, be committing some type of crime, or the business owner of that location, if it's private property, has to tell us, hey, I don't want that person here, and I'm willing to sign a form saying that we don't want him here, and move him on. I'm just going to tell you, a lot of the business people don't want to get involved that far. We encourage our business partners to do that. We hold forums so that we can educate them on what helps us the best. So we do try to have that partnership, but it gets a little dicey when there's 5 businesses all in one, let's say like a little strip mall, and one person says, well, I don't want that person here. The laws are changing, and it used to be that we could arrest them for trespassing, but now the district attorney won't file it unless, it's a little bit broader, because they can say, well, I'm not going to that business, I'm going to this business, or, the laws are getting a little more restrictive for us, quite honestly. It's a little bit frustrating, but, we definitely want to protect everybody's rights and do it the right way. And, society is a very compassionate group, right? We want to help people. And so a lot of times, I always talk about, when people are down on their luck, we want to give them, money or food or water, because we are compassionate. But sometimes that kind of makes the problem a little bit worse, There's no incentive for them to leave. They stay specific to that area, when that's happening. So, I can't tell people what to do, and, but you just have to make your own decisions on that.
One more question.
Sure.
Is there community policing in place? Because all this wonderfulness that we're hearing, there are thousands in West Covina who don't have a clue.
Yeah.
So when they see your black and white sitting in front of a donut shop, and they just saw somebody, like the lady was mentioned, shooting up, they wonder, well, why aren't you riding around and you can see some of this stuff? But then most people don't know what can be addressed by you and what cannot.
So we've moved from donut shops to Starbucks. It's a little more upscale, and we're trying to get rid of that image, right? But, exactly. And I know a lot of times, the perceptions are kind of hard to, get past. So, I'll just give you some kind of statistics. So last year, 2017, our department handled 88,000 incidents. 88,000, which is a little over 250 a day. Okay, we're a busy city. So a lot of times our officers, because they can report right in their cars, they don't have to go to the station and report right. They park someplace that they feel is safe. We read the news. How many police officers have you seen lately that are ambushed? They're just sitting in their cars doing nothing, or they're eating lunch somewhere. Where it's becoming a lot more violent society. So a lot of times, even back when I first started, when I was going to report right out in the field, I had another officer come. And so while my head's down report writing, the other person's just kind of scanning to make sure somebody's not going to walk up with you. That's even more important today. So a lot of times you'll see 2 officers are sitting. I would say right now, I think our statistics about our officers have about 30 to 35% free time. During that time, they're making traffic stops. They're, checking people. They are actually very proactive in their patrol concept and everything, and we encourage that. But you figure, who would think in here that 250 incidents a day? Because you don't read about those in the paper. Most people don't realize how busy we are. But again, we want people to call. We want to respond to everything. I think you all deserve that, and that's our responsibility.
Yes, sir.
On the tangent, I've heard that to reduce the number of sales calls, you should answer the phone, West Covina Police Department, what's your emergency? What are the negative consequences of that?
Use the mic.
Okay. On the tangent, I've heard that in order to reduce the number of sales calls, you should just answer your phone as, for example, West Covina Police Department, what's your emergency? What are the negative consequences of doing that?
Actually, there isn't. I get those. It drives me crazy, right? Because, usually it's when I'm in a meeting and I figure something important, and it's a solicitor or something. I would just say also try to encourage blocking that phone number, for repeat callers. Somehow, I think I'm on the Hilton Honors, but yeah, everybody's on the list, right? You're getting those calls and everything. So what you say, really, there's no prohibition against that. It's just individual choice on that.
Okay, I'd like to first start by thanking the police department for their continual goodwill and everything they have shown all around our neighborhoods. The second thing I would like to bring up is we're always saying, what can the police do for us? What can we do for ourselves is more what we need to do.
Yes.
The neighborhood watch program, some are active, some are not. We need to expand those. And our next one we have in our neighborhood will be open to any of our neighbors throughout the city.
We advertise on next door.
So one thing I want to just talk about on that subject is the West Covina Police Department many years ago kind of went to a concept that's called service area policing. And so the city is divided up into 4 service areas. Each one of those service areas has a lieutenant assigned to that service area. So on our website, you can go, there's a map on there, you can figure out where you live, you understand which service area lieutenant. Lieutenant Allen is one of our service area lieutenants, and he'll put on Coffee with a Cop. He takes emails, all his contact information, all of our lieutenants' contact information are on those. So once you figure out who it is, you can email that lieutenant. They will help you coordinate a neighborhood watch. They can answer questions, you can email them questions, they get back to you. So you actually have a police manager that is assigned to where you live and can give you instant feedback if you have a problem. He has the authority to divert resources to take care of that problem. And that's why we bumped it all the way up to the lieutenant level. He's like the chief of police for that service area. And it's been a concept that's really working well. We have 4 very dedicated lieutenants. When there's crime in their service area, they take it personally. They don't like to get those emails hearing about something that happened. And they will, divert the resources, extra patrols, whatever it takes to get that problem solved.
Is that, someone said next door, is that in all 4 of your service areas?
Ron? It's an app on the phone. I know Lieutenant Allen does monitor his service area. We just had a lieutenant retire. We have a new lieutenant that came on. But I'm pretty sure most of them do monitor that. Ron, do you have any?
Actually, for those, raise your hand if you're a member of Nextdoor.com. Okay, everybody. If you're not, you can just go to Nextdoor.com and sign up. It's real easy. And it kind of auto-locates. Pretty cool because it's going to tell you what service area you live in. I recognize a lot of faces from my service area. I have a couple of my neighborhood watch captains sitting right here. So just get on there, sign up, and you're going to get information coming from myself and the other 3 lieutenants in the service area through Nextdoor. Right now we have about 5,600 members throughout the city, and then it's broken down into the 4 service areas as well. So we take information coming from the city, we put it out. Everybody should have saw my post on Nextdoor about this meeting. If you were all there, I sent that out to everybody. I sent a reminder also. You can also ask questions to us via Nextdoor also. or you can email us. And there's a lot of different ways that you can communicate with us. Nextdoor just really seems to be kind of a cool app to do that. Now, keep in mind though, Nextdoor has kind of the social media side to it where you as a community can communicate. We can't see any of that communication unless you tell us about it. So sometimes I get messages that say, well, Ron, did you read about this? And they're talking about that. I can't see any of that stuff. And that's kind of for your benefit so the police aren't up in your business all the time. But simultaneously, if there is something I need to know, you kind of have to tell me personally. But when you send that message, it automatically sends me an email to write. So I get it on multiple fronts so I can help take care of you.
Thank you, sir. For you folks, I apologize for being so loquacious. I'm Frederick Sykes, lived here for 40 years. The card I just handed to this couple here, it has on the back of the card various numbers for the city, and you don't need that card to really get all the numbers to the city just by going to the city website, westcovina.org, and you can get Public Works and those other numbers that you might need to clean things up, for instance, like at the park. Now, if everybody in here has a phone that gets on the internet, one of the things I encourage you to do is to go to your Play Store or your App Store, wherever you can obtain your apps, is through your phone. And if you get to that location and you go to the search area of your App Store, type in 4 words, City of West Covina. And a logo will come up that matches probably the city council's wearing a little pin. It has the city logo. And if you put that on your phone and install it, you'll be able to make almost every report you need, except for when you need these guys. But if there's a report to clean the city up, like the urine, graffiti, and those kind of things, that's all in the same situation, that's going to be handled by Public Works. And so this is a way to facilitate and make a recordation that you reported a matter. And because of the city situation, it will take time, but you can also investigate how long it will take for remove graffiti and other situations. And then finally about the app, Nextdoor, if you don't have one in your community, by going to the website and you look for your community, if it's not there, you can get busy and create one. And they will love you, they will help you right through the Nextdoor app, Nextdoor. Just go to that website, and if you don't have Nextdoor in your community, you can create one. It's going to take a little effort to reach out to your neighbors, but you can create one.
Or you can be invited in.
Right.
Oh yes, that too, that too. Thank you, sir.
So just one thing I'd like to just mention about Nextdoor is just keep in mind, like with any social media platform, it's not 100% accurate. So in my family, my wife's a social media person, right? She's a Facebooker. And you know, every once in a while she goes, oh my God, you didn't tell me about the robbery that happened down. There wasn't a robbery. Yeah, there was. I'm like, okay, I would know. No, there wasn't. And then, well, it says here on Nextdoor, it's, you know, and so we go back and forth, and it turns out, you know, that wasn't, and, you know, there's some rumor stuff to it, but I think it's really valuable. It lets people get together, it lets people see what, you know, is happening in their neighborhood, things to watch out for and everything. You just have to monitor it like any social media.
There's also something on there where you can let people know about coyote sightings, so that way we can keep our animals in, because we had a coyote running right across our street, right down the center. Yeah, and I have a little dog. She's only this big. Yeah.
That's a snack.
The Nextdoor app, it actually, I really like it. I'm on it all the time. I get notifications when someone posts, but it helps because if my neighbor, for instance, wakes up in the morning and says my car got broken into, I get directly on the app I let them know, you know, Merced and Orange, we just had a break-in, and I'll get a lot of people start chiming in, hey, guess what, my car just got broke. So then we kind of know where that person is going or headed to or something. So everybody kind of chimes in. I don't know if everybody has a notification where it lets us know, but I do, because I want to know what's happening right when it's happening. And I think a lot of us know before even the police come out, because it's just word of mouth, so to speak.
Sure.
So
and that's what we
awesome.
rely on, is for the community to know and then to call us. And to get that information to help us any way we can. You know, if we can track the direction a person's moving based off of you know, who's seeing that, you know, that's really valuable for us.
And a lot of people, they post pictures from their cameras. So, hey, this person just stole package off my porch. Certain things like that. So we identify certain people. So if we do see them in the community, we can let the police know, hey, look, he's already, you know, these people have him on their video cameras. And so this is the guy that just broke into my house, and, you know, kind of help out. But I just think, I know that you aren't familiar with this. If you want, I'll explain it to you afterwards. But for us, it feels like a real community, because we're all talking, even though we don't know what we live for. So I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, there was an article in the news about a program that was begun by the Cook County District Attorney, that's where Chicago is. And the program through the District Attorney's Office included exit interviews for all county inmates when they were being released from custody. And at those interviews, the inmates were assessed as their health needs, their mental health needs, and their housing needs. And before they left the jail facility, they were given references to medical appointments, to mental health appointments, and referrals for housing, so that these people had somewhere to go, could get something done for their mental health needs without just being released out into society without any idea about where their next medication would come from, where they might be sleeping that night. And that program was tremendously effective in Illinois, reducing the rate of recidivism. That article indicated that Jackie Lacey was interested in the program and would be looking into it for Los Angeles County, but never heard anything further since then. I just wonder if you know anything about that program, or perhaps that's something that could be talked about as a possibility of reducing recidivism in our community.
Well, actually, I think it's, you know, it would be very valuable. I think one of the failures in our state is that the homeless issue, the mental health issue, has been cast upon the police department. And, you know, I always say, you know, again, like somebody brought up, it's not against the law to be homeless, but, you know, we're the ones that are responding 24/7. We're the ones doing those things. It's taxing our resources very heavily. So I think to have other, you know, either through the state, through the county, to get the increased mental health, to get the housing, to get all the different groups together that can solve this problem. It can't only be on the cities and the police department. I mean, it has to come from a wider angle, and there has to be the funding for it. But I think that program sounds like it would be very valuable. I don't know whether, first of all, most of our criminals aren't even getting into custody. They're just kind of revolving door, getting time served on a citation, those kind of things. But I think that would be valuable to be able to track that and try to get them the resources they need before they become a burden, before they get into future problems.
Yeah, even if they're not actually incarcerated, if they're taken into custody, there could be a mechanism for that type of interview before they're released, even at that point, before, without even being sentenced.
Right. I agree.
Did that come from Sacramento?
No, that was the one done in Illinois.
Yeah, but how would we want another one here?
Well, no, that was on a county basis.
Oh, it was a county?
Yeah, it was a district attorney for the county.
That could get very expensive.
Chief, could you touch upon National Night Out that's coming up soon and how people can partner with you on that?
It's a great event. It's the first Tuesday
August
in
7th.
August 7th. communities get together, they, you know, it's kind of like back in the 60s and 70s where everybody knew their neighbors, right? You know, there's block parties and everything. You can contact our police department on the website. There's different ways to do it, but we will help you, you know, put together a group. Our police staff, the council, city council goes out along with our city staff. We visit all the different, you know, barbecues. Some people have barbecues, and some of them are pretty elaborate. It goes everything from, you know, cookies and punch all the way to tri-tip and, you know, whatever. So those are the ones we go to first. But it's just a really good thing to bring the community together, to get people out, to know your neighbors. And to me, it's really valuable. And we participate in that every year.
Sure. We have a nice catchy phrase up there about taking back our community. I'm kind of skeptical all the time when I see such catchy phrases, but what is your definition of taking back community, and what were you expecting out of everybody here with this workshop about taking back community? Because the catchy phrase is kind of meaningless if we don't have. The only thing I've gotten so far is call us no matter what, and that's a good thing, but I don't think that's what you're here to be. That's the prime reason for this.
Yeah, so, you know, again, I have to go back to, we're here tonight to present the information, to inform the public about how some of the propositions, the assembly bills, have impacted our ability to do our job, how they impact your lives. And then you have to go forward and decide what you're going to do with that. You know, we can't advocate one way or the other. That's very important. We're precluded from doing that. So we didn't come up with this name. This is a coalition that came together. A lot of cities have joined this. They think it's important. It's really being pushed by a lot of the retailers because, like I said, they're getting killed on theft. It's driving some of our smaller retailers out of business because, you know, they can't absorb that loss. And then the larger retailers, we're all paying for that crime. So for us, the purpose tonight is to be here to supply the information, to try to make you more informed on, you know, what people voted for, maybe even what you voted for. Because, you know, like one person said, you know, oh my gosh, the label on it sounded great. Who's not going to vote for safe schools and, you know, safe communities, right? It's that fine print when you look at the ballot that you go, oh my gosh, it's 2 pages, you know, and it's, I don't know, like in one font or on there, so it's kind of hard to read. But so really, that's the important thing. You know, was talking about that, but you know, we also felt like, you know, we could answer additional questions. What's important to the community? What's happening right now? Different concerns that people have. Yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask about specifically one area. It's on Puente and Azusa, Denny's and Big Lots. So I know there are a lot of areas probably in the city where there seem to be a lack of lighting at night. Landscaping is unkept. There's trash. The businesses don't seem to be doing anything about it, and there are constantly large numbers of homeless people that are gathering. There are people sleeping in their vehicles in the parking lot. There's trash everywhere. And we do call, and you do come, but it's there again in the morning. And I appreciate that you have invited us all to call. I hope your operators are ready for that. And I thank them for their work. But I would be calling you in the morning and in the afternoon and again at night. And I don't feel safe riding my bike with my daughter down the street or walking. You know, and they are blocking the streets sometimes. They're huddled, you know, in undercovers and in circles. I don't know if they're drinking, doing drugs. And you do say call so you can make the contact, but what can be done on a larger scale?
Well, I think, especially at that location, I think it's important to work with the business partners in that lot. We have code enforcement that's part of the police department. If the business owners aren't adhering to the municipal codes in the city, we can go out, we can make notifications so that those get, if it's a lighting issue, those type of things. But we have to remember that, so that's private property. So our involvement on private property, a lot of times is dictated by the business owner. What we can do. So it's incumbent on that business owner to clean up the trash and everything in their lot. And that's where our code enforcement can go out. We'll make that notification, tell them they're in violation of different municipal codes, and try to get compliance. That's what we really want. And that's an area that some of the areas that are problems for us are where the 99-cent stores are, the Dollar Trees. Recycling centers also kind of attract, because they're collecting, the homeless are out collecting recyclables. They want to cash that in for cash. So it's kind of a repository of the people that are trying to get a little extra money, trying to do what they can to survive. And again, I know the calling doesn't sound like we're doing enough, but if we don't know about it, again, we have 17 square miles to cover. We have a lot of areas, but if that's in our call board, we're going to get an officer out there. Otherwise, if it's not there, we may be driving by it because we're going from call to call to call, and we don't actually stop. We're trying to get someplace else. So that's a broken record. I know the police call us, and our operators are ready. So,
Chief, can I just add, that location over by Big Lots, we have been in contact with the manager of the store. She's actually come to the department. The manager has actually come to the department. We've met with her sergeant. She's met our whole team, and they have already started taking action and have cleaned up. So it is an ongoing process, but they are dealing with that specific issue.
I just wanted to make a comment. The fact that we have the Goodwill right over there, there's a donation center. Would that be something under the code enforcement that the Goodwill store would have to take care of? Because they have a drop-off center, and then that stuff, I went by there one day and there were people going through that and stuff like savages. They had dogs out there. My girlfriend and I just left. We were just like, yeah, we're not going through here.
we continually work with the businesses on that.
So that would be code enforcement for?
Yes, and you know, our officers can also contact the business owner. You know, we like to have that in a secure location, that, you know, it's a secure drop-off, so that it's not like a, you know, free swap meet, you know. And a lot of people drop off at night, the business isn't open, the drop-off is full, there's not enough room, people drop off mattresses, not because they necessarily want to donate, but they want to get rid of them, so that's the easiest place, and then those become a bed, or, you know, so. We definitely work with them continuously to try to get those drop-offs, you know, a little bit cleaner, more secure.
I have something on that, Chief. Sure. I recently met with the business owners, actually the people that manage that entire complex in the 500 block of North Azusa. They've hired extra security there at nighttime to try to stop the drop-offs, because Goodwill's policy is, and the signage says, no drop-offs during, well, unless the business is open. But we kind of have the perfect storm there, because we have Goodwill and then we have the carpet store. The carpet store has remnants and scraps from their installations that they put inside of their dumpster. And you know what makes a great home for a homeless guy? Carpet and mattresses and extra clothes. It's all right there for them. So there's a little bit of a problem. We have seen a decrease in the calls for service at that location since we had that meeting with the management and had the extra security guard kind of put in place.
When was that?
It's probably 8 weeks now.
Okay.
Was there a security guard there when you went by?
They take out of the bins and things like that, end up right up and down the street on Azusa. I agree with her, it's really bad.
Yeah, and Goodwill, we have the same problem with our Goodwill down on Vincent also. Unfortunately, you can do your part, but make sure you and your neighbors, tell your neighbors, please don't give to Goodwill at nighttime.
And you can call the city and they'll take that, they'll do the large pickups for garbage and mattresses and stuff like that. I don't know if people don't understand that, but.
Well, just like the chief said, sometimes it's real convenient, because guess what else they got back there? They have accessible dumpsters, right? They have their own dumpster there, the carpet place has their own dumpster. When you live in an urban area, you don't have a lot of access to large trash dumps, so these people will go back there and use that. So maybe they're not even trying to drop off a Goodwill, they're just dumping their stuff. Or they're thinking, like, we all want to be good Samaritans and help out our homeless people, and in fact, it's kind of causing some problems.
All right. Well, thank you again for being here. We really, go ahead.
Thank you, Chief. I want to say thank you for taking the time to have this meeting. Can we have another one? Is there a plan to have another one? As Alfred Williams says, we got to start somewhere. So this is starting. This is where we're starting. I also want to say thank you to Ron Allen. He is so proactive with the city. He does all the neighborhood watches. He does coffee with a cop, and I'd like everybody to give him a big hand.
We're definitely going to keep him around for a while. He does do a great job. And although this is the only meeting we have planned for Take Back the Community, the neighborhood watches, the coffee with a cop, those are the ones that are important to be there. And it's a little bit smaller group. We're willing to go anywhere. We'll take our road show anywhere you guys want to have us. So if anybody puts together a meeting, we're willing to go and support the community. We want everybody to have access to us, to be able to get their questions answered and have a voice. That's what we're here for. We're here for you. So anytime, please get a hold of us. Through the best way would be the service area lieutenant. That way all the, kind of the ideas, the problems, the concerns are kind of in a targeted area. It's a little bit closer. People share the same concerns. And, that's Ron's job, is answering, service area 1, he's going to go through, figure out what's the problem. Every month at our staff meeting, the service area lieutenants have to report on what they're doing in their service area, if crime's up, if they have specific problems, problem locations. And then he coordinates with the other lieutenants that are working different hours, different days of the week. Hey, we need your people up here this time, this day, this is what's happening. So anytime the community wants us, we're here for you.
I'm sorry, really quick. My name's Rosie San Juan, and I've been a resident for 29 years. I've always felt really safe living here in West Covina. I loved it, and I've always felt we've had a great police department. And then I joined next door, and I've been a nervous wreck. I'm sure I didn't lock my car door sometimes, and so I started with telling my husband, remind me to tell the kids to lock the cars, and oh my gosh, there's robberies over here, and there's this and that, and it's like, and recently it's like, I want to move. And today, thank you so much for, I feel relieved. It's not as bad, I guess, as I thought it was. And, but Nextdoor is a great resource. I really do like it. And thank you for having this today. And personally, I'll go on that website and see what I can do for my part. But I'm wondering, you said West Covina is a coalition member. So how is it the city council that's involved, or do they go to meetings? Who's working on behalf of West Covina?
Yes, the city council authorized our city to become a coalition member and to support that coalition.
And what do? They meet with whom?
Well, Captain Bell has gone to several meetings. They do have meetings. Like I say, a lot of it's retailer-based. That's kind of the groundswell. They're the ones that kind of started this. But then with the city council, the mayor's congressmen, state senators, they all go and try to, look at it from multi-purpose angles, of what they can do. Everybody has a little piece of the puzzle and what we can go forward. So there are, I don't know if they're monthly meetings, but at least quarterly meetings on this to try to direct things. And one of the big things at the initial onset of this was to get cities to participate and to get the word out. And that's the most important part, is once this coalition's formed, it's getting the communities involved, because you're the ones that are going to make a difference with this. It's not the city, it's the people that we serve. So that's important.
Thank you.
And if you go online and just type in "Taking Back Our Community," it'll take you to the website. You can read a little bit more.